Perry Mutapa, your name is littered in Zambian football history. Your father, a coach, your brother, a player and coach. You've turned out to be a coach. Let's begin your story. How did your love affair with football begin?
I think, like you have just said, my father obviously being a former footballer and a coach, my elder brother being a coach and a former footballer. So I think coming up as a little kid, I think it was easy for me, obvious, to go to watch football with dad. So I think that's where it came up from.
It was easy like that. Now, you grew up under the care of a policeman. How would you describe dad, both football-wise and the policeman and, yes, the big man at home?
Yeah, I think fathers, I think their jobs, I think when they're at home, they don't come into play. So I should say he was a good dad, but obviously being a cop, like you have just said, he required us to be disciplined. So for us, I think we had the best dad because we are going to play football. Even at school, he encouraged us to work hard. So it went hand in hand with football, school and football. So I think that was good for us having such a father.
Let's talk about your school and football, shall we? So you went to Chongwe Secondary School. And yes, right there people could tell that there's a footballer in you. Was there any pressure that, hey, he's the son to Oswald Mutapa, senior, and things like that?
In fact, I should start when I was in grade 7. I think I never played for any team. So Keris Mwaba, the Power Dynamos legend, by then I think, I don't know if he was at Power Dynamos or in Changa, he could always see me playing alone in a police camp in Chingola because I wasn't playing for any team. So I used to juggle the ball alone. So when I wrote my grade 7 examination, he came up to me and said, I always see you playing alone. Why can't you play with your friends? That's when I went to join the under 14 Nchanga Rangers football team.
All right, so in your formative years, you played in Chingola and Gabitas, and it's a big team. Did you have the ultimate, what was your dream structure like at the time? Was it to actually win to actually play for Nchanga Rangers, as it were? Or you were open-minded about the whole thing?
Of course, at that moment, you are still young. You don't think about anything. And I think after the results for grade 7 came out, again, I had to stop playing football. I was only playing football during the holidays. So I think at that time, there was nothing I was thinking about. It was only about to enjoy football.
Okay. Then you move from the Copper Belt and come to Lusaka. Then you find yourself playing for the Zanaco youth team. Just tell us about that one.
In fact, it was in grade 9 when Dad was transferred to Lusaka. So, being the dad he was, he told me that you are not going to go to school in Lusaka, you are going to a boarding school because I don't want you to be playing football. First, you have to concentrate on your education. So I had to go to Chongwe. And from there, during the holidays, when I came back, I was playing for the under 16 Zanaco Football Club.
Did he support the whole idea but he probably found out that you were playing football at school?
Yeah, in fact, he was the one who was encouraging us, buying us boots. So I think he was only worried and he only wanted the best for us. So he wanted school first, but he was also encouraging us to play football.
You went to Lusaka Dynamos in 1994 under Obi Kapita. Just tell us what was it like playing for a professional team like Lusaka Dynamos at the time?
It was fun. how I joined the Lusaka Dynamos, because again it was during when we were waiting for the results for grade 9. So I was with Alex Namazawa, now the assistant coach for Green Eagles. So I escorted him for training, and he just told me, you can also train if you want. And I trained, and they liked me. But after a week, I think the results were out, and I had to go back to Chongwe for my grade 10, and that's how I was never seen at Lusaka Dynamos until the August holidays. That's when I came back, and the coach was like, hey, where have you been? We are looking for you. And that's how I started again to train in August, and that's how I started to play for Lusaka Dynamos. And I was registered in August.
I'm just thinking, a lot of people who've been to Lusaka Dynamos talk about how Hanif Adams is a powerful influence. Back then, what was your first interaction with the man?
I think he liked especially young boys. By then I was a young boy. So for us it was easy. And I think if you did well at training, you are going to play. So it was easy for me. And with Hanif, he liked young boys.
And playing with older players, I'm sure it was a bit scary. They would use their strength over you. How confident were you? And a lot of people remember you as a central midfielder. Did you play any other positions other than that?
Yeah, I think in most teams which I went to, I could play wide left, I could play wide right. So for me, I was just a midfielder who could play at any position in the midfield.
Okay, now let's just move it forward a little bit. You played for the under-17 national team under Donwell Yobe Senior. First of all, how did that call-up happen? And when you arrived at the team, what were the demands that were placed on you?
I think it's an interesting story about how I was called to the under-17 national team. Firstly, I think even in my when I was maybe 9, 10, I used to play with other guys. So I can remember when I was 11 or 12, I was playing with other boys in Arakan Barracks, and that's where Donwell Senior was based. So he used to come and watch. So when I was back in Lusaka, and he knew that I was playing for Lusaka Dynamos, when he was coach, because the team had left for the COSAFA under-17 in South Africa, I wasn't part of the team because I think Donwell Yobe just joined when they were about to leave. So after they came back, there were some tournaments, Africa Cup qualifier. I was surprised I was included in the team, and that's how it happened because he knew me a long time ago.
And then when you arrive, I'm sure now you are beginning to mature into an older player. I'm sure they needed to control things like being playful on the ball and really now teach you the hard stuff about the game. How would you describe the kind of football mind he was, and what did he do for you at under-17?
No, I think he made us to play freely, and I think if you can't enjoy football, then you don't have to play it. So in terms of, it's not being playful on the ball, it's about enjoying the game.
He didn't mind dribbling and all that stuff?
No, I think you should dribble with a purpose. If you dribble to eliminate an opponent so that you can go and score. That's the purpose of dribbling.
Okay, now, you also play for the under-20, and then you've got a COSAFA championship that you go to in 1995. What are your memories of that one?
It was because there I found other players like Davis Piri, Inex Masia, Devi Msole, a lot of other guys. So it was a good experience for me. But in football, like I said, even before when I was very young, I think I used to play with other guys. So for me, it was okay for me. And I won it the second time with the under 20 when I was the captain in 1997 in Botswana.
So all that was happening, and what was the feeling in terms of you growing as a player? Who do you think had the biggest influence on you in your formative years?
I think it should be Dad, because you know
he actually coached you to some extent.
Yes. He used to coach us with Oswald even at our place, at home.
What was his belief about how football should be played?
No, obviously the first thing, if I can remember very well, he used to teach us how to pass, especially using the inside foot. That's what I can remember much about him.
He was that deep with technique, and
yes.
That probably also helped you and gave you an advantage over your friends who didn't have a father who was coach.
I think so. If you watch me and Oswald, I think you can see the technique, the ball control. I think it's up there with the best you can think about in football.
Now, Rod Paulson was once upon a time Zambia coach, and you had the privilege of working with him. And it was not many years after the Gabon air disaster. When you were working with Rod Paulson, how did he want Zambia to play? Because he brought in some vital changes to the game and how we're expected to play as a country.
A lot, and I think he did very well as a coach. And like you have said, after the Gabon disaster, most of the guys who are playing for the under 23, they are the ones who started playing for the national team. And I think that's the way football should be. And even us at under 20 was monitoring us a lot. So it was easy for him to pick us to go in the national team. And most of the time, because I went to the national team in '96, but I was still very young. But most of the time, before the games, maybe a day or two, he could drop us, and then for us, it was a learning curve to play just to train with the national team players.
And then he brought that system, the 3-5-2. Of course, you didn't play much for him, but how was it in training, and how difficult was it? Because our history was that mainly a 4-4-2 system would be the one that we would play.
Yeah, it's difficult at first to understand it, but you have to have the players who can do it. And any system you play in soccer, the players have to buy into it, and you have to be confident. But there will be a lot of mistakes, so it's not easy playing any system. But the ultimate is to make sure you learn through it and take it as your own.
In terms of the senior players that were in the team and playing that system, a lot of people were surprised. Was it the first time you're really being asked to play a system that not many Zambians were familiar with?
I think so. Like you have just said, you have just remembered Paulson or the system of 3-5-2. So even to us players, I think we are only used to see 4-4-2. So it wasn't easy, but I think if you have got the right kind of players to play in that system, it's one of the best.
And once you brought that system, where were you picturing yourself playing?
I think in front of the two top men, as the link man between the midfield and the two top men.
As the number 10?
Yes.
And later on, would you say that we needed to get back to the 4-4-2, because again, by default, Zambians preferred that system?
No, I think even when I was captain, when we won the under 20, I think we played that system at the under 20 tournament, because the coaches who were the ones we were with at under 20, the likes of Benjamin Waria, Mondo, I think they were also part of the technical bench for the national team. So they brought that system at under 20, and it was good because we are winning games with that system. And I think especially we had ball players like Boyd, we had Andrew Sinkala, So it was good for, we had Francis Kasonde. So it was good for us and we really enjoyed.
It, it was confusing for the opponent to actually stop you because maybe they used the number 2 is getting the winger and the number 7 is probably dealing with the number 3. What really made it work for that under 20 squad of yours?
Obviously we had great players, but like you have just said, the system sometimes will confuse the opponents. So like you have just said, the number 2 is very difficult to tack inside if you are playing 3-5-2, because most of the time us the midfielders, we are always in the middle of the pitch. So for them it leaves them to mark our wing back and another wing back, which is not easy because they also have a wing back and they have a winger and a wing back.
So it was really something that you totally loved and enjoyed as a player.
Very much.
Now let's just move it forward a little bit. Yeah, you are now coming to full cycle, becoming a senior professional in the game. 1997, of course, you are participating in that team that's trying to qualify for France 98 after missing USA 94 and yeah. Let's talk about the qualifiers, shall we? 94, USA 94, we missed and we're already thinking about the team that died and Jean-Fidel Diramba. But going for the France 98 qualifiers, how would you describe the mood in the Zambian football national team?
I think the mood was fantastic, especially that after the Gabon disaster, the rebuilt team went on to reach the finals. We came second. So I think the mood was there. So I think we even started very well the qualifiers for 98. I think we only missed it when we were beaten by South Africa in South Africa by 3-0.
I remember Clive Barker saying that he wished he could coach that Zambian team that he beat 3-0. The question is, what made that team special if you look back?
Obviously, we had a lot of good players. Like, obviously, you can't miss mentioning the great King Kalu. We had Johnston Warrior. We had, in defense, we had Elijah Ritana, Harrison Chongo. They were voted in the last edition, which was 94. They were voted as the best central defenders at that Africa Cup. So obviously Clive Barker saw something. Obviously we don't want to coach Kalu Shabwara by then. So even the young players us were coming in, I think we had great talent. So it was a mixture of youth and the experienced ones. So, and I think we are the favorites to qualify, but I think we lost it when we lost to South Africa in Johannesburg by 3-0.
When you look back, what was the problem that day? It's because I'll tell you this for nothing. As young as I was, that match landed me in hospital. And I want to know, when you look back, what was the problem? What really happened? How did we lose that game 3-0?
I think as players, sometimes overconfidence plays a part. I think if I can remember very well, a lot of people, a lot of supporters traveled to go and cheer the team in South Africa. And everyone was saying, there's no way South Africa can beat us. And it was like, if we just win or we draw, then we are going to qualify for France 98. Sometimes I think it's overconfidence. So sometimes it's the part of maybe the technical and other people to emphasize the need of not being overconfident.
Big problem. And thinking about it, probably also finishing third at the 1996 Africa Cup probably didn't help. We're confident throughout. Our team died, finished number 3.
Yes.
We're not very far away from glory. And then France 98.
Like you have said, 96, again we are confident of winning the trophy. But I think we beat teams like Tunisia, who are one of the best at that tournament. We beat them. Egypt, we came from a go down and then we beat them 3-1. So going into the semi-finals, we played against, who did we play against?
Well, we beat Ghana in the third and fourth.
South Africa beat Tunisia. I think again we faced Tunisia.
Tunisia, and they beat
After
us.
beating them in the, was it in the groups?
Yes.
We faced Tunisia again. So I think overconfidence again, maybe it played a part, because everyone was like, no, Zambia is taking the cup. Karusha Bwarea was the top scorer. So, and in most cases, I think even at World Cup, if you see a lot of African teams, when you just say we are playing good football, we are playing against this European team or South American team, we are going to win. That's when you find that an African team was lost.
Tell me what, before Bloemfontein 1996, we actually played Tunisia in a preparatory match.
Yes.
As a player, do you think that was the thing that actually cost us? Because maybe Tunisia had studied us and we didn't, and we took it for granted. When you say overconfident, that decision to play them before the AFCON, do you think was the biggest mistake we could have made?
No, I don't think so, because we are in a group of Arabs and they play the same type of football. So I think Tunisia wasn't in our group. We only met in the semi-finals. So we played a friendly against them at Independence. I think we beat them 2-0. But it was a game which had to make us see how our group was, because we had Arabs, I think, in the group.
Let's talk about your debut for the national team. You made your debut against Achimwene, the Flames of Malawi. Let's recount that moment, special day. They say the Zambian kit, for some reason, is the heaviest kit that any footballer can wear. And you are given an opportunity to play for Zambia. Let's look back. The call-up and playing against Malawi and winning too.
Yeah, I think I had been called before in camp, like by Posen. So obviously the setup of the national team now I was familiar, because I passed through all the age groups, the 17, 20, 23. So in terms of the call-up, I was familiar with the setup of the national team. But obviously to play in front of a lot of people at Independence Stadium. But for me, I think, like I said, football you should enjoy. So for me, I really looked forward to play in a full stadium. So, and it happened we played against Malawi. So I was excited, and I was like, I should make myself proud. I should make my fans proud. And that's what I did. I went to enjoy the game, and it was a nice debut.
The jersey didn't feel heavy.
No.
And it was all good, but they always say that the hardest time to be a national team player is when you lose and need to go back home and, get due, didn't have the nicest people. Did that play in your mind at the old Independence Stadium?
There are some. Sometimes it will baffle you when some other players are talking, they are worried about Gedi. But in most cases, my roommate was Masao Sotembo, and we are always just looking forward to play the game. So for us, there was nothing like to worry that Gedi will be against us. We just had to make them happy, and they will support us. And in Zambia, you play well, they will always support you.
Did you ever find yourself in a situation where they are waiting at the arc when you lose? When you lose, they are waiting at the arc, and they know where you stay, and you can't just move.
No, I think at that moment, at that time, I think most of the games we are winning. So I think it was a chapter where a lot of people were enjoying supporting Zambia. It's on that when it mattered most, maybe the last game, then we disappointed. And sometimes, Zambian fans are very good because they, they always support us, but they were disappointed, but as well as players, we are the first ones to be disappointed.
Now, we went for at the Independence Stadium and beaten for something like 14 years. And that's the generation you played in. Every time it was a home game, probably totally relaxed.
Not really, because we are winning almost every game at Independence. So we are not relaxed. We are just looking forward to give the fans a win.
You had the privilege of working with Fred Muller, or being coached by Fred Muller. How would you describe the man?
I think he was a tough coach, and you know, before being coached by him, you know, you are going to meet him. Everyone could say all sorts of things. He will say this, he will do that. But sometimes in football, you need someone who is tough, especially as a coach. So for me, I think when I met him at the national team, my focus was just to play football. And sometimes you find that the person they say is tough, it won't affect you because you are doing the right thing.
In terms of the physical demands, I hear the training was really hard. Really hard. You look back, I hear I don't know that it was before or after the game, you'd need to go up and down the steps at Independence Stadium. There was a lot of running involved.
No, before the game, yes, he was a very demanding coach. We trained a lot, but after the game, I'm not sure about that. I never did that, but before the games, we trained a lot.
Were you one of those players that hated fitness training? And it's because he came from a generation that really believed in physical conditioning and you needed to be tip-top.
No. For me, I think I knew I was skillful, but to do anything with the ball, I had to be super fit. And yesterday, I had the privilege, we are playing social football. I had guys like the TD for Red Arrows, Charles Kafula, Boyd Mulwanda. We are talking something about fitness, and they were like, hey, do you know that during the fitness test, you are always number one? I was number one with the former player for Nchanga, Evans Mawa. When we are doing the fitness test, we are always coming up tops. So for me, it wasn't a problem.
You also had the rare privilege of working with Bazoum.
Yes.
Tell us about the man, for those who just read about the man in books and newspapers.
He was the technical advisor for the national team when I went there. He was a man of few words, but when he said something, it could make everyone laugh. But you know, he meant what he said, but he didn't say a lot. But I think to be where we are, I think everyone who has passed through coaches like Fred Muller, Sazum, I think it was a privilege, and we have taken one or two things from him.
What was the biggest lesson you learned from Samuel Zoom Glove?
I think in his days, we just here, he was a dribbler, and he made us believe that we should express ourselves, because in Zambia, I think we are skillful, and we should always play a passing game, and we should dribble, obviously, with the aim of eliminating the opponents, and you score. And that's how football should be.
You're an inaugural winner of the COSAFA. 1997, David Siame scored in that final against Namibia and were champions. Yeah, and funny enough, it was also the Independence Stadium in Namibia, right? Yes. Yeah.
And you should put it, that's a pass from you, that's a
pass from perimeter. Yes. Okay, you are a COSAFA winning player, yes. And whilst David Siame scored the goal, you are the champion goal assister.
Yes.
Just tell us, looking back, we're very happy as a country. And I think you ended up going to State House and shaking hands with, yeah, the president, the president and
Republican president.
Tell us about that game, the final.
The final, leading up to the final, I think professionals came in, and some other Africa Cup games we are playing without some professionals. So I think we are about 22 or 23 in camp, and we only required 18 to be on the bench. So it was a difficult task for the coach, because we used to start almost all the COSAFA games, especially myself and Masauso. So going into the final, they didn't know who to leave first in the starting 11, on the bench, and the ones to be in the terraces. Because if you can remember, even Johnston Warrior, the only missing person in that team maybe was Karusha Warrior, who didn't come. But all the professionals, you could say, talk of Tenant, he was here, guys from China like Davis Yame, Sidin Mambwe, Harrison Chongo, they all came. So it was difficult for the coach, and more especially that, especially the local players were the ones who had made that team to reach the final. So it wasn't easy for anyone in camp, because we wanted to be a part of it. And to be part of it most of the time as a player, what counts is to play.
Was it intimidating? I mean, if you look at that competition, the local guys versus the professionals?
No, it wasn't. In football and in anything you do, you just have to believe in yourself. And I remember when the lineup was out, the coach Benjamin Warrior came to us and Masaus, and he said, you guys, you are the ones who are going to make us win when you go in, because today's game you are on the bench. And we are just happy to be on the bench, because if you looked at the team, there was a possibility of us being in the terraces. So being on the bench, it was a plus for us. And just after 15 minutes, I think Tenant wasn't feeling well, or I don't know what happened. He was substituted for me. And I came in, only a few minutes, I gave the Davis Yame the pass, and we scored. And it was a good day in Zambian football.
When you look back at that team, many years on, a lot of professionals feel COSAFA is something small, we don't want to play in it. But with your generation, the pros really wanted to come and play the COSAFA. How important was it? Or maybe was it a kind of a thing where 96, number 3, you come to 97, you really want to win the cup, and it was just a very good feeling. And we also went on to win the trophy again in 98.
Yeah, so if you remember, COSAFA was a very big tournament, I think, in the start, because everyone was using their best players. And for us, it was like a friendly remember, we are having France 98 in our minds. So everyone was using it as a training game. So, but it's a cup, so it wasn't a training game. So it was good to play in those games, because it gave us the picture of who was going to play in the Africa Cup qualifiers, in the World Cup qualifiers. So in those days, I think it was a bigger tournament. And to win tournaments, you start from small things.
Now, you played under George Mungo. George Mungo loved to play attacking football. How important was he for your career, to have a coach like that at the national team?
Especially as an attack-minded player, it's very important if you have a coach who always encourages you. Sometimes it's not easy to play with a coach who is always demanding the defensive side of you, but it's very vital in a game. But mostly if you are, because to win, you have to score more than the opponents. So if you have such a coach, then it's a plus.
Big plus. Now, your talent took you overseas. 1997, you went to Odense, and where you linked up with other Zambians. Just tell us about the trip to Denmark.
The trip to Denmark was after we had just won the COSAFA, and Posen was here in Zambia. After that game, he was here in Zambia. He came to get, I think, Mwapemiti and Andrew Tembo. So he inquired about my availability, and by then I was playing for Lusaka Dynamos. And he arranged everything from there, and I had to go to Odense in Denmark. I stayed there, I think, for almost 3 months or 2 months. I was about to sign when they just knew about a clause which limited a team not to have more than 3 players from outside the European Union. And by then, they had already signed Mwapemiti, Andrew Tembo, and a guy from Cameroon.
So, when you look back and when you arrived in Denmark, and there was always back home, when you're playing overseas, they would say he's a professional and whatnot. What was the level of football when you got to Denmark? Did you feel that there was a lot you needed to learn, or you felt that I was going to settle almost immediately?
Of course, in life you need to learn every day. So when you go to Europe, I think there's a lot of things you should learn before you can be considered to be a very good player. And so it's not easy, but coming from Africa, especially if you are skillful and if you are focused, you don't need a lot of time to do the correct things.
So the competition and the level of football was not higher than what many people think, that if you are playing in the local league, it's at a lower level, and at international level, it's totally different.
It was higher, but I think I was a good player to play in the higher league. So for me, the only hindrance, I think it was just that same thing of limitation of not having more than 3 players outside the European Union. Otherwise, I was going to stay, and it was going to be good because the coach knew me from Zambia.
Were you heartbroken when you came back to play for Zanaco? And I'm sure at the time you really wanted to play outside Zambia.
Of course, because when I went there, I think just after a week, everyone was, in fact not a week, after the first training session, every player was talking about me. After a week, the administrators were talking about me. So the only thing which was remaining was to sign, and they wanted me to sign. And then to learn about that clause which denied me to play there, it was very heartbreaking for me.
All right, so you didn't have to wait too long to go back to Europe. You went to Portugal. Tell us about your time at Florence.
No, I think it was a good time. I went to Portugal on a recommendation from a player from Congo who said, I've seen this player in Zambia who is one of the best players.
Which player was this?
That was Ndingambote. He played for Vitória Guimarães in Portugal. So he came to me and he told me that I don't want you to play much of your football in Portugal, because I've seen your football, it's either in Spain or France. So I'm going to make sure I take you to a manager who is going to make you to go to play to Spain.
How did you meet this guy? And he was too nice to you.
Yes, this guy came to watch one of the games at Woodlands. So this is how he got my number, and this is how we met at Intercontinental Hotel, and we started talking. So he sent the videos of me to his former coach, who was the former coach for him at Vitória Guimarães. And the same coach, the white guy, he was the one who said, let me take him to this manager who can take him to Spain.
Then when you arrived, again, you said you felt you were a good player to play at the highest level. In terms of the culture in Denmark and Portugal, what was the difference?
I think the difference is not much. You can maybe only say maybe the only difference about most European countries is the food. So the difference, I
You
think.
didn't miss Shishima?
Not really.
I hear it's a big deal when you go overseas, you want local food and simply not there.
No, obviously for some it's a big deal, but for me, it wasn't a big deal.
You missed CAN 98, the Africa Cup of Nations. Is it something that you were disappointed with, looking at won COSAFA 97 and you miss out on that?
Yes, I missed out, but I was disappointed on that. I think by that time the coach obviously had some other issues, because I think the coach had issues with Karusha Bwaria. He had issues with me, especially after we played.
Bugadzis?
Yes, Bugadzis.
What was the problem?
I think the biggest problem was we played a friendly game against Malawi at Woodland Stadium. We beat them, I think it was 4-0. I scored a wonderful goal. But during the match and after the match, everyone was shouting my name. They came to the bus, they were shouting, they were just shouting about me. So to him it didn't go well, that how can these people be only clapping for one person. So it didn't go well with Bogazis. I remember there was a friendly game we played because the national team was in camp and the under-20 were in camp. So he told the national team guys that if Perry plays, everyone in the midfield will remain and I'll take Perry. But I don't want him to go. So you should put on 6 studs and you should break his legs. So there were coaches, the assistant coaches came to the coach, to our coach who was Benjamin Warrior, and he said, Perry, whatever they have said, you are going to play in this game. We played a friendly at Sunset against the national team. But even if I have put you in the team, even if you don't touch the ball, it's okay. The ones they have assigned to be on you, take them where the ball is not. And it was exactly what I was doing.
What conversation did you have with Bugadzis? And what, because people liked you that much, he didn't like it. He wanted, you were not his favorite player? Or
no, I think
what was the issue?
My thinking was, he thought if there are people are praising you a lot, maybe it goes to your head. So for him, maybe it was a kind of like saying to me that you don't have to be big-headed, but I wasn't. But it happened to Karusha Bwaria. If you know,
he actually thought Karusha was also big-headed from what you
because
read.
everyone was talking about Karusha Bwaria. Before any tournament, any game, everyone was talking about Karusha Bwaria. And imagine for so many years, King Karu was the captain, but come Burkina Faso 98, Karusha Bwaria was stripped of the captains.
What did that mean? As in, was he messing with a team that played well under the leadership of Karusha, and sounded like he was just disturbing you?
My take, but like I'm saying, maybe he thought maybe people, if they praise you a lot, they destroy you. But to my understanding, after we went with the under-20, we won the cup. We came back. I was in the team. I was in the team for final selection. But you could see even at training, I was busy doing my things. I was playing well. And sometimes he could even give a comment. I pass the ball, I do nice things like, hey, now we are playing like Europeans, you understand? Something like that. Then
but he just said, no, you are not going for AFCON.
No, obviously.
Did he explain to you why you were going to miss AFCON?
No, he never did that. And surprising enough, after Burkina Faso 98, we went to Malawi, Zanaco, for preparations. We found Bugadzis in Malawi, and he was busy now talking to me like, you are the player, I want to take you to Germany.
He wanted to take you to Germany.
Imagine.
Were you surprised?
Yes, I was. But for me, even at
But
first,
what offer did he have for you? When
no,
he said,
obviously before, I think the players he got from Zambia, I think he took 1 or 2 to Germany. There was this, was it Sylvester and the other one? He took them there for trials. And I don't know what happened.
were you interested? Did you trust that it was a genuine offer that Bugaziz was bringing to the table? And he said, I can take you to Germany, but he's the same man who refused to use you as a national team.
I think so, because even the guys who went to Burkina Faso, I think, you know, after you talk about such stories, even the guys who went to Burkina Faso, there were some issues with him. So it wasn't just me, it was even some other guys. But in life you have to be strong. And
You made an appearance at Africa Cup 2000, Nigeria. What are your memories of that tournament?
a very bad tournament for Zambia. Came in the last minutes.
That's your first, huh?
Yes, came in the last minutes of the game, the third game in the group, and we are out because we needed to win that game, and we didn't win, so we are out. And that was the game. I think before the tournament, I was in camp with the national team, and I had to travel back to Portugal.
During AFCON?
No, before the AFCON, when the preparations were being done in Zambia. I had to go out of camp, but with permission, to go and do a deal with a team in France, which was Montpellier, because by then I had a very strong manager, and he had struck a deal with the other team in Portugal to say this guy is going to Montpellier in France, and the agents there were happy. The only thing I needed was to play in the Africa Cup of Nations, and after that I was going to France, but they came to Nigeria to come and watch me, which never happened, and it's a story now.
Did you explain that to Ben Bamfuchile when you came back that, look coach, there's something going on here, all I need to do is play, then it's well, I'm going to France?
No, they knew because I left camp with permission. We are playing friendlies against Zimbabwe, I think. We played the first game on Saturday. I was involved. Then Sunday I had to leave, but they were playing the second game on Sunday. So they knew what was happening. But obviously in the Africa Cup of Nations, obviously they wanted the best for Zambia. So it wasn't about me. So even if they knew, obviously they knew maybe there was a part I was going to play in that tournament. But unfortunately in football sometimes we lost, we drew the third game, but we didn't have enough points to qualify, and we are out.
Now, 2 AFCONs back to back, we are knocked out at the first round. In 96 we finished third, 94 we were finalists, and I'm sure the feeling was now that the national team was beginning to decline. And people were not too happy with the national team at the time. Was that the hardest period to be a national team player?
Of course, especially as a young player, because, you know, football, every time, it has to involve a lot of things. And obviously that time when that was happening, I think a lot of players had been in the national team for so long. Maybe some were comfortable, but some maybe obviously it's because of age. So it was very difficult.
The team was aging. Were you hoping that the younger players could come in? Probably, you see, the under 20 from 1999, the Makufis, the Chintus, the Gift Kampampas, the Emmanuel Zulus,
Yes,
did we delay to bring them into the national team proper?
Because I was part of that team which went to the World Cup, the first team to go to the World Cup at any level. So we had a very good team. In fact, we are Spain. Most of the time I talk about Spain, because that team which dominated for the national team for Spain, it's the same team which we played at under 20 level in Nigeria. is the team which won the Under-20 World Cup in Nigeria. So they came up with that same team, and in 2010 they won the World Cup. They won the European Cup with that same team. So and the tournament, we are the only team who drew with Spain, with the likes of Xavi in the team. So I think it's like this team which won the 2017. I believe if we have most of the guys, we keep them and we nurture them, I think it can also be a very good team.
Now, we go to 2002. You miss the AFCON again, but again, the same thing happens, first round. What could we have done to prevent what happened in maybe 98, 2000 and 2002? Because it was 3 tournaments of Zambia failing to get past the group.
I believe in football, you have to have a foundation. Like I have just said, Spain, they are the foundation in that Under-20 winning World Cup team. And they came a long way from there to win the European Cup at senior level, to win the World Cup. So in football, I believe we should be confident of building a team. Doesn't matter when you are losing sometimes, because so long you know that you have a team of younger players who are going to make it.
Did you feel like we're really building a good solid team with your group? Because 3 AFCONs, it wasn't going right. Yes, you graduated, but when we get to 2004, we even failed to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations.
Yeah, that's the price you pay, especially if you bring in young players. But if I tell you, you bring in young players from 2004, what happened in 2012 with the inclusion of some other guys who played in the 2007 World Cup? So it's a mixture of those players from 2004 who failed to qualify, and those players who played in the Under-20 World Cup in Canada under George Rwandamin.
So now,
at the last it paid. So that's what
it paid, yeah, and he had to make some difficult choices. That the Under-23 of No Mandela, Chris Katongo,
Felix
Isaac Chancer, Jacob Mlenga, Renford
the Under-20 of Mayuka.
Yeah, and we put them together. Now, yes. I'm just thinking, at 2004, Kalusha Walia is technical director stroke coach, and then after we failed to qualify against Benin, of course that was a game worth forgetting any day, we find ourselves in a situation where some of the senior players are clipped, removed, to make way for these younger players, the Christopher Katongos and them. When you look back, was that the best decision that could have happened to the Zambia national team?
Yes, it's always the best solution to happen to any team. If you look at the sides of Sir Alex Ferguson, there were always young players who were coming in. So even for us to win the AFCON, it was because of the decisions which were taken back. Because at that time when the Chris Katongo were playing, us were playing, I think we should count ourselves as the older players by then. And come 2010, 2012, we are not there. But those guys, the Kalabas, they were young when Kalusha brought them. They are the ones who won the AFCON.
How would you describe working with Kalusha? Played with him, and now he was coaching you. What was the difference between him as captain and him as the boss?
Obviously, as a player, there are certain things you do. But as a coach now, you are in charge. So you make sure everything is in place. And I think on that part, he played so much in Europe. So in terms of making the players happy, I think he was good at that. So when someone graduates from another level, you just have to take it.
Now, did it happen? Like there was a bit of fear, like, he's now the coach. Did he make it abundantly obvious that now I'm the boss? We can't do things the way we used to, Perry and everyone that played with me?
No, in football or in life, I think, like I have just said, is the coach, and you have to respect that. So, when you are on the pitch, you have to know that you are doing work. When you are outside, you have something to laugh about, and it's normal.
Was he a tough character?
Obviously, it depends on how you call tough, but obviously he wanted the best for the team. So obviously you have to go by the rules. If it's time for training, if it's time to report, he played in Europe. There's no way you can be reporting late in camp, such things.
There was one rule that he was a black boot coach. Nobody could come with colored boots and certain hairstyles.
No, no. No, he used to talk about it, but by then I think he understood, because we used to, I think we are coming from Orlando Pirates, and we used to have, was it white or grey Adidas boots? That's the boots we are getting from Pirates. So when we are coming to the national team, we are putting them. But obviously, he used to talk about the boots.
And it
But
had
we use
to
them.
be Copa Mundao. A lot of players, actually, it had to be a black boot. It had to be. I know there were colored boots at the time. But with him, I hear he was very strict about things like that.
No, I think for some, I think he really wanted them, especially maybe even the defenders. But for us, I think he didn't care about the boots we are putting on.
And hairstyles.
Yeah, obviously the hairstyle. Sometimes players, they do those funny hairstyle. Sometimes I think they go overboard.
and he needed to control.
Yes.
It's because there were young players in there. And I'm just thinking, did he do that because he was dealing with young players that he wanted to build a certain culture in? And because of that, he also needed the senior players to, hey, gentlemen, black boots, no funny hairstyles here and things like that.
Obviously in their time, they had afros, so it was new to him. And like I have just said, it's not good. Sometimes I think some players, they go overboard with the funny hairstyles.
Okay, and it can be a problem in a team, even little things like hairstyles, when you think about it.
I don't think so, but obviously it depends on where you are coming from. Obviously, where I was coming from, I wasn't going to be allowed to do such kind of hairstyles.
Okay, let's talk about your time at Orlando Pirates. You're coached by Kostadin Papic. I remember you wearing that number 34 shirt. What did it mean to play for the Soweto side?
It was huge, because they have got a very big following. So every time you are playing, it was like you are playing a cup final. And I think as a soccer player, I should say I'm one of the luckiest, especially to play in the Soweto Derby, because it's a game which starts maybe a month before. Tickets are sold out. The day of the game, you're at the hotel, you're seeing people, they have lined up in the streets, they just want to see you pass by to go to the game. It's a very huge game, but just to play for Pirates, I think it's one of the highlights for me. It's one of the biggest teams in Africa.
Tell me something. You played for Pirates at the time. On the other side of Soweto was one Collins Mbesuma, a teammate at the national team, and your enemy in Soweto. How was that rivalry? And most of the both of you are coming from Zambia.
It was huge, and that season I think Collins did well. He won almost everything, top scorer, player of the season. But as a team, Pirates, we went 17 games unbeaten, which was a record for Orlando Pirates. We broke that record of going 17 games unbeaten. And we are the best team in that season until the last 2 weekends. But Chiefs was also playing well, of course, with the goals of Mbesuma. But the last game, Chiefs won, we drew. We read most part of the season, we are number one. And to lose the league on the last 2 weeks or on the last day, it was very painful. And I can remember Collins coming to us and Isaac, we have won. So it was really sad for us.
What made Collins really tick? A lot of people say it was Hadebe who made Collins Mbesuma the terror he was in South African football. What was your opinion at the time?
I think he was a good player, but like you have said, he had someone who was playing like a number 10, who was full of running, but immediately the ball went to Mbesuma. His aim, Mbesuma, was just to score, and he did that. So, but you can't take away the thing away from Kaizer Chiefs. They had a good team.
What made that team under Kostadin Papic really tick?
I think we played.
What was his approach to matches?
The intensity of the game, of course, and he really liked passing game, and most South Africans are skillful. So we did that, and in that season we never won the league, but we won the best balanced team of the season.
What could it be one of your biggest disappointment in your career?
I think so. It could have been. It can be one of my biggest disappointments, because I remember that night I never slept, because I was just thinking about the loss, because even my family had come to South Africa and we were sure we are going to win the league, and to lose it on the last day, it was terrible.
Tell me something. How and why did you leave Orlando Pirates? Because you end up coming back to Zambia.
There was an ambitious club which came into Division 1, which they call the Mvela League there, a league behind the PSL. So there was this ambitious guy who wanted the best players, and he approached us. That's how we talked with the bosses, and that's how we went to that team. But that team didn't last because I think he had problems now financially. At first it was okay, it was one of the richest, but after 6 months it was terrible.
He offered you more money than you were getting at Pirates. You offered more money.
Yes, I was offered more money, but obviously I had to speak to Pirates, and they were happy for me to go to that team. That's how it happened.
So it was, at what point in your career did issues of money become very important over football?
Obviously, as a person, there are times you should know that now I have played football. We are talking about now, that was maybe 2007. I knew that now I'm going towards the end of my career, and I should do something.
Okay, now 2007 you come back to Zambia. You had stints with Lusaka Dynamos, Nkwazi, and Napsa Stars, and in between there was a trip to Angola to a team called Azar. Hey, what was that all about? Azar in Angola again?
Yeah, when I came back,
it was purely money decision.
When I came back in Zambia, I was playing for Lusaka Dynamos, and there was this guy from the embassy. I think he watched a game, I don't know if it was between us and Zesco, and then he approached me, and then he was like, I work for Azar. He works for the Azar, because it's also in Zambia. It's one of the companies for planes. So he talked to me, and I was willing to go, and that's how it happened, and I went. And obviously, like you have said, I knew I was going towards the end of my career, and I had to make something out of my playing career.
It was now going to the end of your career. You even won the Barclays Cup with Napsa Stars, that team called the Galacticos. And everybody was excited about that team around 2012. Was it a nice throwback to play with your fellow Madalas? Or the stars from yesteryear?
I think so. One thing obviously we had in mind was to win, and especially when people say Madalas, Madalas, you have to show them that even Madalas can do it.
You're a
And
difficult team to beat.
yes, and we did that. We came fifth, I think, that year with Madalas, and we won the Barclays. So we are not just a Madalas team. We are the team to beat.
Again, you played with Patrick Piri, Peter Kaumba was there. First of all, tell us, how was that technical bench working? It's because you had, wow, veterans of the game and on the bench, and those playing were actually veterans as well.
Obviously,
how easy or difficult was it to play in that team or get it?
Obviously, first the management, obviously, they thought, obviously we are bringing these guys, the Miranzis, the Chalwe, all these Sipo Mumbi, Ian Bakala. So obviously they thought we need to bring in coaches who have got the experience. So they were just looking at the players, I think, who they brought so that the team could perform. And it performed because we knew each other. They were in Go, we had Kaririro Kakonje just coming from winning the Africa Cup. So I think they wanted the best for the team.
Was it hard? In terms of instructions, coaching, who was more like the head, who was number two? Because in football teams, you usually have that structure.
The head is always the head. So the head was Patrick Piri, the
Piri.
assistant was Peter Kaumba, and obviously they had worked in this field for so long, so they knew their roles.
And it was easier for the players to respect such coaches as opposed to, if they had brought in a younger coach, do you think it was going to be harder to manage that group?
I don't think so. It depends on the kind of players who we have brought. Maybe if they think he's a younger coach, you have to do certain things. A coach will always be a coach, even a boss, even at work. There are a lot of bosses who are younger than the guys who are working in some other companies.
Tell me something. Then you caught time on your career and coaching was going to be your next destination. How long did it take for you to accept an offer from Lusaka Dynamos to be assistant coach? And the team was in Division 1 at the time.
Actually, what happened was 2012, I had some setbacks with injuries. So come 2013, I still had my knee, was always paining. I couldn't run. So I had to call it quits because I couldn't run anymore because of my knee. So after hanging up, I just said, what am I going to do? But before, it's not like coaching, I just said, because after knowing that my knee wasn't going to take me anywhere in my playing career, even before I told myself that one day I'll be a coach. So when I knew that I wasn't going to play, I went to Lusaka Dynamos and I said I want to be part of the technical bench, and I was given a role of an assistant coach to Lucas Siam. That was, and by then Lusaka Dynamos was in Division 1.
And then first time you're head coach, you win promotion. You're working with players like Conlide, Luchanga, and all of a sudden here comes a young coach. But again, to what extent did your decision get influenced by the history you had with Lusaka Dynamos or the commercial values? Because again, probably the team didn't have a lot to give.
Obviously the team didn't have a lot to give, but the same year stopping and going to a club, I don't think there was a team which was going to look at us and say, Perry, we are going to give you this coaching job. So I went to my former team and they were willing to give me the role of an assistant coach. So it was very easy for me to join the Lusaka Dynamos.
And then what would you say was the secret for you to play? And first division football, very difficult. The pitches are probably not the greatest. The players at a lower level. What was the secret to getting it done in 1 year of coaching?
I think the following year when I was the head coach, I remember my first conversation with the players was, for your information, I've never played in Division 1 in Zambia. So I told the players, for me, this is my first year to be head coach, but if we don't qualify to the Super Division, I think I'll even stop coaching, because I don't want to go and to seeing you guys, you are playing on a pitch where there is no grass. So I think maybe some of the players were motivated by that talk. And we made it in the same year I was the head coach.
I look at some of the football that team was able to play, putting the ball down, playing on the ground, attacking through the lines. And probably one of the biggest games that Lusaka Dynamos won, even when they got to the Premier League, was the match against Nkana, 3-0 at Sunset Stadium. I was there. I remember it like yesterday, because Elvis Katai was on fire and there was tear gas. But I want to ask about your coaching style and philosophy. Young coach, I'm sure you'll receive lots of advice from the older coaches, but your style is a little bit different. Why?
I believe in Zambia we have a certain type of system. I think when we are growing up, we used to watch a certain type of football. So, and I know, especially now, we don't have bigger players in stature. So, I think our game is a passing game. So, to play that game, I know it's very difficult, but you have to believe in the philosophy you want to give the boys. So, for me, if your players are not very big, I think the suitable style of play should be a passing game. That's why I've seen that style, because even at national team, if we are going to take players to go and play for the national team, the clubs should be like where the players are training from, because at the national team you just have to involve tactics. So if you are playing against teams from West Africa, they are always bigger guys. So our system should be a passing game, play the ball on the ground, and I believe that should be our style of play in Zambia, and then we are going to make it.
Is that the only way football can be played, or will be played, as long as Mutapa is coach?
Yes, because I enjoyed playing that type of football. I remember as a player, if I go to receive the ball from the defender, I'm not marked, and then the defender puts the ball high, and I go to chase. I didn't like it. So football, you have to enjoy it. It's work, and if you don't enjoy work, you never give the best. So football, you have to enjoy it, and you give your best.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Cheers.